episode 27 of Newysports TV. I am Ty Stedman, welcoming you to what is going to be a very long episode tonight because I didn't get the Saturday portion of the video in on Saturday night, so this is all being recorded in one sitting. It's currently 11:10 PM. I'm going to predict that this finishes at 12:30 AM. Let's get into it anyway. This weekend, round 21 of the New FM First Division. What is it now? A week? One more week and then finals. So, I was just about to swear then, but I'm going to say stuff's getting real. I'm not going to say another S word. Things are getting real, and finals are fastly approaching. You know, I'm one of those people that believe that the premiership season is separate to the finals. The finals is sort of a new competition. You saw that last year with a couple premiers going out in the first week. You know, it's definitely, there's still a lot to play for. There's still premierships to play for next week. There's still final spots to play for next week. We're going to talk about that now. Yesterday, the only game of the day, the feature match, Thornton Redbacks trip to the Newcastle Athletics field for Cookshill United's final home game of the season. And firstly, first things first, a big thank you to Cookshill for this season. There's been ups and downs, but you know, I've been at the club now for 3 years, and to be running the PA there, and you know, that's where I started doing it. And straight away, other clubs noticed. Other clubs who were there on the day, you know, people from Toronto said, you know, you want to do ours, and then, you know, whoever, you know, it just started spreading. And this season, I've ran the PA system at 7 out of 11 clubs, which, you know, you could say 8 because I've been sort of, even today, I sort of had a few words on the Wallsend speakers. And I think Cessnock as well. I've only been there once this year, but I think they'd definitely be happy for it. Lakes of course have their own system, which is actually, you know, admittingly probably one of the better in the competition. The amount of speakers they have there and whatnot. And then there's another club that I can't quite put my finger on, and it's not happening at the moment. Maybe it's 9 out of 11. I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely, you know, I didn't think at the start of this year that I'd be carting a cameraman with me, you know, carting PA speakers to Singleton and stuff like that. It's been an amazing year. So one more week and then the finals, and indeed it was my last Cookshill home game for the year, the last Cookshill home game for the year. And yeah, very thankful for the opportunity to do that this year at Cookshill, and it's been fun, and it was a good day yesterday. It was, you know, you look at the scores and you think, oh, Cookshill had a very bad day, and yes, they did, and not quite happy about that, but I don't mind. You know, we'll talk about the 19s and that, and the losses, like, they weren't, they're bad, but you know, I don't mind. We'll talk about them soon anyway. First things first, we're going to talk about the under-17s game where Cookshill United 3 defeated the Thornton Redbacks 0. There was a sense of urgency in the air for the 17s. Excuse me for one moment. Actually, don't excuse me for one moment. I was going to write down, whenever I start a new segment, I was going to write down the time so I don't have to go through the video and find each individual segment, but I don't have a pen, so that's not happening. There was a sense of urgency in the air for the 17s game. Cookshill looking to avoid a potential death blow for their finals hopes, and without giving away too many spoilers, it would have been, if they had have lost yesterday, they would have been gone. And Thornton were looking to avoid the wooden spoon. Cookshill came out firing, and Thornton were under pressure. I've seen this team play a few times, Thornton, and with all due respect, they're slow starters, I think, you know, I watched them play against Westie, and even that day they didn't get out of the blocks very quickly. The same can probably be said for a couple other games like the Kahibah game and whatnot. Once they get into the game though, they're decent, and they're a very young team, and I think they'll be a lot better for this a lot better next year for what they've done this year. Central defender Gabriel Halpin was required once or twice early on, stepped in and did a decent job of it. And defenders like Mitchell Roy and I cannot think of who the other fullback is, but they've worked their asses off this year, for the lack of a better term, and well, you already know the result is 3-0, so they're going to get the wooden spoon, but there is so much to build on at Thornton, and I hope that none of those players sort of, I hope they stick together, and if they don't wind up somewhere else and get offered an NPL spot or whatever, trial for an NPL spot. I still don't even know if Thornton's going to be in the comp. I still don't even know if there will be a comp, but if it's the same thing next year, I think this side should stick together. We'll talk about the competition later if I get a chance. Unfortunately for the visitors, the Cookers had all their momentum in just the 6th minute. The post was rattled by Cameron Walmsley, and I'm not going to do the highlights this week. I'm going to say that now. I simply don't have the time or the energy or both. I'll do it for finals, obviously, but at the moment it's just not happening, and apologies for that. And in saying that, I may still do it, but I'm going to say that I won't. The post was rattled by Cameron Walmsley. Yeah, he left Lachlan Donnelly behind. That's another one of the defenders. He's a good player too. Fired a shot that smashed against the frame of the goal. 4 minutes later, some scrambling from Thornton's goalkeeper Blake McDonald saw the ball rebound to Toby Mellon, who would fire a shot, and it smashed the post. As you might see here, if the highlights are going to be shown. A fingertip save from Blake McDonald. Busy times for the Thornton goalkeeper. And how about Blake McDonald? Seriously, it's down to him or Josh Davies for Player of the Year in this team, for my opinion, and Blake McDonald yesterday played 17s, played 19s, came off the bench in 23s, a brilliant young goalkeeper, and even Cook-Seal said, wow, this goalkeeper's really good, and he is, and it's probably maybe not been as noticed by a lot of clubs. A lot of clubs think about the top 4 teams. They think, how good a keeper is Brady McRitchie or Josh Snedden or, what have you. But there's some good keepers out here, some good potential keepers, or good keepers with good potential, I should be saying. McDonald, one of those. Brad Fairclough from Singleton. I don't think there's a bad keeper in the comp. They all do their best job, and it's a shame to see Thornton finish bottom, but someone had to. That's a competition. That's how it works. So the Cookers' chances started to become less regular, not register. That's not really a thing. Thornton found more time in possession, and we're cashing in on the cash register. I don't know, I'm just putting words together for the sake of putting words together at the moment. A chance to progress further down the field. The Redbacks, so I thought they struggled to create many chances. They got Josh Davies and whatnot, but there wasn't too many shots at goal or anything like that happening. Cook-Seal had the majority of those chances. 39th minute, the main talking point of the game, and a talking point that quite frankly I'm sick of after a billion comments today and a billion views and whatnot. It was a challenge by a Thornton player who I'm not going to name at this point. I did have someone from Thornton say, you've named the player and you've shamed him, and it's potential defamation and whatnot, which that probably, that's not legit. But I don't want to have anyone offside, so I met them halfway and I removed his name, and I'm not even going to say his name here. Just out of that, I don't want. It's too late at night, and I've worked my ass off too much this weekend and spent way too many hours commenting and videoing and, well, not videoing, but commenting and being at games, and I've just I'm over it, to be completely honest with you. It has completely drained me tonight, that particular conversation. To those people, I do apologise. I don't always get it right, and you can't please everyone, so, you know. But defamation, that was a load of crap, honestly. I wasn't calling the player a grub or anything like that, and I defended him because this player, as I said, I'm not going to name him, he is not a dirty player, and it was a one-off challenge that was all wrong, completely all wrong, and it was a yellow card. It should have been a red card. And Cameron Walmsley, you know, you've seen players get their legs broken by these sort of tackles, you know, maybe not their legs broken, but, you know, serious injuries as a result of tackles like this one, and it might get shown in the highlights. You've probably already seen it. To be fair, I did see some people say the referee had a different angle and he would have had the back angle and maybe not seen as good, but it should have been a red card. It sounded like a gunshot going off. It was an awful challenge, and we'll move on. We'll move on that quickly, you know. And again, like, I just want to avoid conflict. It pisses me off. It pisses me off no end to have to spend my time trying to resolve conflict. So I'm apologising for causing that conflict, but at the end of the day, it was a match that was, it's a highlight from a match, a soccer match. That's what happens. But, you know, I did remove the player's name there, so we move on. That's where we move on. And, you know, I didn't film that. I didn't call him a grub. I didn't do anything like that. I just commented on the facts. There it is. 0-0 was the score at half-time. Frustration for Cooks Hill. You know, at this point I thought, this is finals. They have to win this game. And they'd come out a better side in the second half. 56 minute, the breakthrough finally came. Sam O'Sullivan's throw-in, a very long throw-in, found Damon White, who'd put it past McDonald. Thornton here, they should, let's be honest, they shouldn't be letting a throw-in find a guy on the penalty spot unmarked. That's not very good, and that proved costly. You know, that was really a nail in the coffin, I guess, after all that hard defending. They were working overtime. Mitchell Roy was injured in a collision, sliding in on a Cooks Hill player. Not much in it, just going for the ball really. Not like the previous challenge, but and it wasn't Mitchell Roy involved in that previous challenge either. That would be his last involvement though, as he was subbed off for the remaining 10 minutes or so. 4 minutes remaining, an in-swinging corner from Campbell Guest found Cameron Walmsley at the back post, who'd finish it left-footed, and he's right-footed, so that was good, I guess. The weak foot goal. Walmsley grabbed another goal right at the end of the game. He was fouled in the box by Lachlan Donnelly, and the resulting penalty made it 20 goals for Cameron Walmsley this year, and that is after getting the crap kicked out of him earlier on. He'd come back, he scored 2 goals, and then he played 23s later on. A brilliant day. He would get injured in 23s. We'll talk about that soon, but 20 goals. And Cooks Hill United, that's all they needed in first grade was a striker. Obviously, he's probably a bit young for first grade, but if he stays there, that's definitely long-term thing, I guess. That was the final kick of the match, a win that puts pressure back onto Kahibah in the race for the top 4, and we'll talk about the Kahibah results soon. And a hard-fought win against the Thornton side that they now can't avoid the wooden spoon, and as I said, they'll show great improvement next season. Rightio, we move on to the under-19s, where Cooks Hill United 2 were defeated by the Thornton Redbacks 3. Thornton came to the outfield slightly more impressive form. Cooks Hill have been awful as of late. They've struggled to get numbers together, and their last win was back on the 8th of May against the Thornton Redbacks. A long time ago. Eamon Doyle backed up for Cooks Hill, and so did Blake McDonald for Thornton. It was Doyle who was busier in the first half. 15th minute, the opening goal of the game coming from Travis Howard for Thornton. A decent finish actually. I didn't actually catch it, but I was told it was a decent finish. I overheard some Thornton people saying, that was a good goal. So I'm just going to say that it was a good goal. It was a Cooksil person that told me that it was a decent finish. So, decent play. I haven't mentioned him too much. He did score against Kahibah, I think, a couple of weeks ago when I was out there. 5 minutes later, 2-0, Jai Bowen with a tap-in. I do get Jai Bowen and Connor Galbraith mixed up, both left-sided players, long blonde hair, but it was definitely Jai Bowen that scored this one, and it was a tap-in, and it was all the momentum going to Thornton. They'd cap off a solid first half with a goal in the 35th minute to Josh Davies, who's up there as one of my favourite players at Thornton. I think he's got brilliant potential. And that took him level with Jack Halverson in the race for the Golden Boot. A deserved goal for a player that played well. A slow opening to the second half, 3-0, it's pretty much game over. Elijah Harrison, though, gave Cooksil some hope with a cracking finish. Rocky Saveckles had a shot that was cleared off the line by Lachlan Donnelly. That was crucial. That was moments after that first goal. 61st minute, as I try not to throw up, 61st minute, Lachlan Donnelly clearing it off the line, and if that had gone in 3-2 in the space of 5 minutes, and suddenly the game's back on, so that was a crucial clearance. 6 minutes ago, Damon White fired home a second goal of the day. That's how it ended, though. Cooksil go down, and I don't mind, I'm Cooksil through and through, but I think I applauded at the end because I quite like this Thornton side, and I think they've had a tough year. They've beaten Lakes twice. They've got a lot of potential, and people must think I'm talking out of my arse or something about Thornton, but I'm not. I really think there's some good young players there, and I think development is something that club can do well. And I was talking to Darryl McAllister after the main game yesterday about that. There's just, if they can, there's individuals, and if they can work as a team next year and get together, to be honest with you, I thought their structure yesterday wasn't the best, and they've definitely got room for improvement. They left, even at 3-0, there's a lot of spaces and players not really tucking into where they should be and stuff like that, but with a strong off season and a lot of coaching, a lot of training, they can definitely be a much better side next year. For Cooksil, just another day at the office, really. Struggling to get the numbers again, backing up with 17s players, and I'll give them credit where credit's due, to come from 3-0 down to 3-2, at least make a game of it. But again, it was a loss, and you can't hide that. That is now 11 weeks without a win. 12 weeks ago, they were in the race for the minor premiership. It's amazing. That's what happens, though. In the 23s, Cooksil 1 were defeated by the Thornton Redbacks 2. An interesting matchup that played out in rather lacklustre fashion, I thought, compared to the earlier games. Thornton created momentum slowly over the course of the opening quarter or so, but Jacob Robinson smashed in a 15-minute shot. Kaya Roth, no chance of saving this one. A good goal for Robinson. A poorly rushed clearance from Cooksil gave him the chance, and he made no mistake with a cool finish. Thornton goalkeeper Chris Berg was back from a groin injury and lasted the better part of 16 minutes. He had to come off, and I had a quick chat with him because I just quickly asked him, is that for finals eligibility, or what's going on. He said it was an injury and whatnot, but I tell you what, a reliable backup in Blake McDonald. 3 games though, what a busy day. A really good goalkeeper, as I said earlier. Thornton with a 1-0 lead at the break, more of the same in the second. Poor turnovers cost Cooksil. Jacob Robinson again pounced on a sloppy handover, got the ball to an unmarked Jesse Radford and a simple tap in. And this video screen keeps going blurry. I hope the video is not going blurry, but Jesse Radford with the goal there. 2-0. Cooksil looking disinterested at this point. And again, the video is still going blurry. I'm just going to touch the screen. I don't know. And look, to be completely honest with you, they're going to struggle in the semi-finals if they don't produce, and they didn't produce yesterday. Elijah Harrison grabbed a quality goal, again chipping the goalkeeper. He had 2 quality goals, good day for him. Disappointing day for Cooksil in the 23s. They need to find their form going into the finals. Thornton find themselves in 5th, and their finals hopes were well and truly alive. We're going to talk about their finals hopes soon though. Not a good day on Sunday for the Redbacks 23s team. In first grade, Cooksil United 0, defeated by the Thornton Redbacks 3. The Cookers took to the field with Bailey Graham, Emerson Gosling, still in the starting side after their debuts last week. Asher Beasley still there. Jack Wilson was back, and midfielder Jack O'Toole was also back. A solid lineup. Didn't take long though for Thornton to make some inroads. Nathan McAllister hammered a shot off the bar. After some early momentum, the home side worked their way into the match, and their best chance was arguably putting me to sleep because it was missed by Jackson Pett, a header that should have gone in. Moments after that miss, a quick-fire chance for Cooksil, a quality shot was forced Mick Hugo into a very good save, a very, very good save, the goalkeeper. A chance for Tanner White, although it may have been Mitch Kaczynski. They both got long hair, I'm not sure, I'm not quite sure on that one. They'll know who it was. That was saved well just before half-time by Emerson Gosling. After the break, it took just 5 minutes for a goal and some controversy to go with it. Thornton opened the scoring through Nathan McAllister, but calls about Gosling being taken up in the build-up from Cooksil fell on deaf ears. I'm not going to lie, I was yelling out, as I do. I'm a member at Cooksil, but fair enough. I think it could have gone either way, to be completely honest. I'm not going to take away that goal. At that point, I was a little bit annoyed, but if I was if this was Singleton and Southie or whatever, I'd probably say it was a collision and it was fair enough. So I'm not going to have any bias in that. McAllister gets the goal, and that took him level with Halverson and Josh Davies in the race for the Golden Boot, or in this case the Black and Red Boot. Halverson, that was a poor joke. Halverson didn't wait long to get that lead back. A quality individual goal in the 66th minute gave him his maiden goal in first grade. And how about Jack Halverson? He made his debut last week, impressed on his debut, stayed in the squad. Daryl McAllister's a big fan of his. That's exactly why he's in the squad, and Daryl rewarded his performance last week with a starting spot today. You see youngsters come off the bench in first grade. It's not every time you see them start. And Halverson not only started, he got a goal. So brilliant for him. And brilliant was used to describe that. The 79th minute goal for Nathan McAllister. Wow. And people will say it's a cross-turn goal, it's lucky. I tell you what it was class. It was full class. I take nothing away from that. And I've been standing there all year in my Cooksil gear, watching. Cooksil have won 2 from 10 home games this year, which is that's disgraceful, honestly, for a team that big, for a team with those names that they signed at the start of the year. It just hasn't been a good year. So I've seen more than enough goals go in there. I think I clapped a Kahibah goal on the first day of the season for Jaden Demir or something like that. I played 6-a-side with Demir out there at Kahibah. I'll tell you right now, I was there in my Cooksil goal gear, and I was clapping McAllister's goal because it was brilliant. I don't care if it was a shanked cross or whatever it may have been, but it was just really good to see that sort of goal. And NBN were there filming; they were right above us. And as soon as that went in, I looked up and I was hoping he'd be there, but he was gone. It would have been nice to see that on the news. But yeah, you can't take that sort of goal away. 3-0 and 14 goals each for McAllister and Halverson. It will go down to the final the final game of the season, the race for the Golden Boot. Some physical challenges from both sides. Mal Hinchcliffe for Cooks Hill, perhaps lucky not to get a red card. I don't think he was the last man though. Pardon me, it wasn't Mal Hinchcliffe, it was Jack Wilson. He wasn't the last man. Bailey Graham was definitely the last man, so questionable, you know. And Jamie Subit was yellow carded. Subit, I'm gonna say, you know, he's got a hard sort of style about him, and no BS sort of player. And yeah, I think this is the sort of player most teams need. You know, you need someone like that, and you know, he's definitely. Well, I don't like that about Subit's game though. I don't like the physicality part. That he can be a classy player, but what I do like is, you know, him and the other players were sort of, you know, with Halverson being on the field, they're sort of, you know, push up, you know, keep going, mate. That's sort of good to see, and you know, you need that. And Thornton, they've got a good culture there. They were too good on the day for Cooks Hill. Cook is different, you know, similar lineup from last week. If anything, a better lineup with Jack Wilson and Jack O'Toole in, and they couldn't get started. Missed some chances in the first half that probably proved fatal. It played out similar to the 17s game, you know, 0-0 at the break, and then one team scores and they run away with it. Take nothing away from the Thornton Redbacks, one of their better wins of the season. And on that, a big thank you. It was my last Thornton game for the year. A big thank you for all those from Thornton who've supported me this year. I only saw the club play twice or so last year. So, you know, I went up to Thornton Park 3 times this season, and I've seen them play at Singleton, I've seen them play at Kahibah, Cooks Hill. I think I've seen Westy as well. So I've seen about 7 or 8 Thornton games this year. And yeah, a side that were very quiet in pre-season about the way they went about things. It was hard to get results off of them, but I've definitely made some good contacts there to get results off of, and goal scorers, and as I said, they've got a lot of good young players, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do next year, whether they get in the comp or not. I think they will. I'm hoping they will, and I'll leave it with hashtag where do we come from. The team song sounded good yesterday. They were loving it. Absolutely loving it. Real quickly, we're going to talk about the NPL because I think it should be mentioned. I'm not going to talk about today's results because I don't know them, but yesterday, Valentine 2 defeated Broadmeadow Magic 1. First of all, I need to mention this game was played at Johnson Park, West Wallsend. Good to see Westy getting, you know, a massive club like Magic playing at West Wallsend. That, you know, hopefully they would have got some canteen money out of that or whatever. I'm not sure if they did. I'm not sure how that works, but good to see Westy hosting that one. And I tell you what, Valo beating Magic. They drew them earlier this year. Magic, I think, were without James Virgili, but still, that's a big win for Valo. So I'll give credit there. And you know, a club that I worked with last year, and I probably won't get to see too much of unless they get dropped down to the second division, which I'm hoping for their sake they don't. Rightio, let's move on because we're sort of behind schedule a little bit. We've got a lot to get through here in the under-17s game today, where Wallsend FC 0 were defeated by Kahibah FC 1. Kahibah FC were playing their biggest game of the season. It was simply a must-win fixture for the semi-finals. I'm not going to lie, I didn't think they'd be able to do it. That's why I tipped them not to be able to do it. But they come out looking a side determined to do it. Joseph Haddon, the captain, so regularly a standout at centre-back, was further forward and he was causing trouble, taken out by Jackson Manning early on, just outside the box on the 3rd minute. Free kick as a result. Kahibah had another free kick in the 5th minute. And Pat Waller, it was Pat Waller who got fouled, had his arm grabbed by, someone grabbed his arm, I don't even know who, maybe Jacob Ray, I think it might have been. A quick thinking Noah George took a quick free kick, got it to Ryan Stutchberry, And I tell you what, like this, if the highlights are on here, unfortunately our cameraman, I don't think he noticed a quick free kick. So this wasn't on film, but this was a hell of a goal. It would have been goal of the round. And wow, Stutchbury in the 5th minute of the game to put Kahibah ahead in a must-win fixture for the finals. It was dramatic as any goal you'll see this year. Noah George was involved in the next highlight. In the 10th minute, Wallsend were shouting for a handball. I didn't actually see it, but I just noted the time, and I went and had a look at the video, and it wasn't. It was, but it wasn't. The referee, he couldn't have got his arm out of the way. I don't think it was a handball penalty. The referee, let's quickly mention the refereeing today, and the referee for this game. I thought he really let it flow. He knows who he is, and it's a ref that I really like to watch, and a ref that I think did a great job today. And there's been some really good reffing performances as of late, and I know you don't ever hear me mention it when it's a good reffing performance, but it was today. That particular referee let the game flow in the 17s, which I think is the best thing to do. He was, he told the players what happened when they did something wrong. He explained it. He's trying to teach and referee at the same time. And in saying that, there wasn't a yellow card in that game in the 19s, 23s or first. Wallsend versus Kahibah all day, there was not one single card shown, and I'm very happy with that. That's great refereeing, that's great sportsmanship by the clubs. There was a little bit of argy-bargy in a couple of the games. There was a couple fouls in first grade that I thought should have been yellows, but that happens. But yeah, I thought the flow and all that really went well today. Even yesterday at Cooks Hill, there was a bit there where someone was offside and they didn't play on. I said, the other team had already taken off. I'm like, play the advantage or whatever, put the flag down, play on. That happened today. I like to see that. I understand the rule book sort of says this or that, I like to see free-flowing games, and it's good to see some referees that think the same, that like to keep the game flowing. Every referee is different, just like every team's different. But yeah, good refereeing today, and there was a few people that said that, so I'm not the only one. Let's get back into it. Wallsend were sloppy at times at the back. As a result, Kahibah had the momentum and were creating the better chances. The home side worked their way back into it, but the half-time whistle would go at 1-0. 2 minutes into the second half, Juma Sadie turned his man and he hammered a quality strike and an equal quality save from Zach Ireland in goals to keep Kahibah in that clean sheet. Wallsend almost shot themselves in the foot in the 53rd minute. I've got Sam Wallace here, but it's Sam Willis. Apologies for that. I was hurrying when I was writing this. He tried to back pass it to Cameron Jefferson-Bilb, the goalkeeper, and it went straight under the goalkeeper's foot, and he only just got back and cleared it off the goal line. Almost an own goal. Moments later, Ryan Stutchbury had another shot that was heading for the back of the net, I believe, if it wasn't blocked by Kai Condon, the Kahibah, Stutchbury's Kahibah teammate, in an offside position, inadvertently blocking that one. They had the majority of the chances. I thought they were unlucky not to get 2 or 3. Better team on the day. They would hold on for a massive clean sheet, and one that puts one firm foot into the finals. Joseph Haddon was strong in his position, but the defenders today, Noah George, Stutchbury was quality today. A real team performance from front to back, side to side. Flynn Devon at fullback, Pat Waller. You just name the whole team. I think everyone played well today, and they just amazingly. Well, let's talk about Wallsend. They had an off day. Wallsend, I thought they simply missed Angelos Karvelis today. You don't really want to say too much about one player missing, especially in a grade like this. But that midfield without him, there's some good players there, but he's a rock in midfield, and it was very, very hard not to realise. Well, it's very easy to realise how important he is once you take him out of the squad, and they really missed him today. Jackson Manning and Darcy Hall worked well in defence. Angus Hall had a good game. Travis Lockwood as well, the fullbacks. But Jackson Manning, though, was stand out for them again. And to come back from a potential, what I thought was a torn calf muscle last week, that was what the reports were. 3 or 4 quality attacks I thought he killed off. You just don't get past him. 9 out of 10 times you will not get past him. He's just a rock in defence, and as he just gets older and more experienced, if he stays at Wallsend, he's future club captain, in my opinion. Maybe not club captain, I don't know, but definitely future club centre back. There's just brilliant centre back. Darcy Hall as well, leading that team very well. Decent performance, but not good enough today. And as I said, not at their best, and missing Carvelis. But for Kahibah, wow. I'm not going to lie, being Cooks Hill through and through, I was hoping they wouldn't win, obviously, because it now makes it very, very difficult for Cooks Hill to make the finals. But I applauded at the end because that was a brilliant team effort, and take nothing away. Cooks Hill, with their plus 36 goal difference or whatever, they're going to be out of finals. That's what I'm going to tip. Cooks Hill are going to go to Singleton next week. They should be winning that. It's a tough trip, but they should be winning that. But Kahibah hosts Toronto, and with respect to Toronto, Kahibah's probably going to win. If they play like they did today, they'll win, and they will be playing semi-final football, and it will be well deserved. Tony Belson's side have come from nowhere to sit in the 4, and that was a massive win today. If anything, let's just hope that it wasn't an early grand final for them. They'll be fired up next week. Under 19s, Wallsend FC 0, defeated by Kahibah FC 1. I'm not going to lie, this was one of the most boring halves of football I've seen this year in the first half. And I say that with respect. I think the players will realise, technically, the passing might have been decent or whatever. I go on the chances, I like seeing a lot of chances. I like seeing action at the pointy ends of the field, and there wasn't much. And it just sort of seemed like it was lacking something. To be fair, it came to life sort of in the second. Nick Hagan, I'll mention this, Nick Hagan was forced off with an injury, so it brought on 17's fullback Travis Lockwood early on, and he was put up front, which just was strange. But he did his best effort at that, and I thought he had a good day today. Playing 19s, you can't go wrong with that. Good for the experience, I guess. The second half saw the game improve. Harry Wills had a quality chance for Kahibah, couldn't find the net. Cooper Goodacre, he had a cross that sort of skimmed the crossbar, and Wallsend would create some chances as well. Jeremy Wan, I thought, was one of the hardest working players in the first half, and had a decent second half as well for Wallsend. It was nice to see another 17s fullback, Angus Hall, in the team, and he played on the wing. So Angus Hall on the wing, Travis Lockwood up front, Bailey Rufo was there. The whole front 4 of the Wallsend 19s was 17s players. They had plenty out today, the likes of, I saw Ryan McClure at the game, just injuries and stuff like that. Who else is... There's a few out for the Wallsend 19s. So yeah, they struggled, but with the full-time whistle moments away and a 0-0 draw looking ever so likely, Cooper Goodacre would pace his way forward, beat a defender or two, and smash home a delightful finish. And I was delighted to see that in the final moment, final minute of the game. Sent the Kahibah fans into wild celebrations, and anyone who knows Cooper personally know that he hasn't had the best year, so to get that, to have his first goal since he's returned to the squad, to win the game. Just absolutely brilliant. And I wish that game had been filmed, because that was some celebration, just dramatic sort of ending to the game. And, even Craig Hagan, the Wallsend coach, said to me that he was happy to see, of all people, to score that goal. Cooper gets it, and he had a good game today, actually. He got that goal at the end. Wallsend probably pushed a few forward and created some space or whatever, but definitely deserved goal. And as I said, it's good to see, really good to see. And congratulations to Cooper on that winning goal there. In the under-23s, Wallsend FC 0 were defeated by Kahibah FC 1. You've seen a pattern here, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Don't worry, that pattern's about to end for first grade. Let's talk about this first. Essentially an elimination match, this game. 17 striker Jacob Ray earned another start. He's been impressive this season. Kahibah, though, with a dream start. Some good vision from Callum Blomfield. There's a player who I don't think I've mentioned at all this year, but this was a quality pass down the line to Jez Turner. There's some ringing out the window. I think it's a train or something. It's like midnight now. We're not making too much time on this. A good pass from Blomfield to Jez Turner down the line, and like clockwork, Turner to Evans, Evans into the net. Alex Evans with the opener, the Englishman scoring in the 4th minute. 13th minute, a Brendan Hayes cross was so close to being an own goal, as Wallsend captain Cody Simpson sort of slid in and almost put it into his own net. It hit the post, much to the relief of Nick Doyle, the goalkeeper, and indeed Simpson himself. A fairly quiet half, but not too many chances, but obviously Kahibah leading 1-0. 61st minute, Alex Evans took a shot from point blank range. I might chuck this in the highlights, because this was I don't know, he didn't want to take it left footed, but he took too much time to switch feet, and he just didn't get it away in time. A bad miss there from Alex Evans, deflected out for a corner. Moments later, Nick Doyle was forced to make 3 quick-fire saves. Probably only one of those was, they'll sort of at him or whatever, but he was forced to sort of go, bang, 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 and then catch it. Hard to describe. You'll see the footage if it's on here. Jaden Demir fluffed his lines, and it should have been Kahibah 2 or 3 up at this point. 31st minute corner to Ski Webster, which that's not legit, that probably means 71st. Missed a header at the back post that he should have buried. Wallsend threatened late, but it was Kahibah that defended their backsides off and picked up a huge win today. That's the end of Wallsend's season in the under-23s. They will not make the finals, and I'm going to be brutally honest here. That's poor for a team. I think they set out to do more than that. They had some consistency going at one stage. Chris Wallace was the coach. He's moved back to Scotland, but Ben Nichols has taken over, and he would have had intentions of getting to the final. They'd be very disappointed of not making the finals, but they will understand they haven't been consistent enough, unfortunately, and that's what happens. What I do like about this side is they've given younger players like Jacob Ray and Dan Strazzari, not Strazzari, Strazzari, have been regulars for the last few weeks, and that's good to see. That's what you do at this time of the season. Kahibah, they need to beat Toronto next week, and they have to hope and pray that South Cardiff do not beat Lake Macquarie City, or else they will be out, regardless of the result they get. Both games are at the same time, so I'm hoping to update from Kahibah Oval, and I'm hoping to have someone updating from Lake Macquarie. Lake Macquarie City normally put up live scores on their Facebook page, so I'll be checking that. Big game in the 23s, big week in the 23s next week. In first grade, Wallsend FC 4 defeating Kahibah FC 1. Changes for both sides. Let's talk about the lineups first. Changes for both sides here. Kahibah made the risky play of not playing Sean Clerk or Ash Ilfield due to cards. One more card for either of those and they would have missed the first semi-final. I get where Kahibah are coming from here, but you know, Clerk's been in and out, but Ash Ilfield is probably their best player. And I'm not the only one who'd say that, but he is up there as one of their best players. He was missing today, he was missing last week as well, and you know, they've lost the last 2 games. I'm not saying that it's all about one player, but Ash Ilfield's a brilliant player, and he's one of the best in the competition, and I get where they're coming from. I totally understand that, but players like Ilfield and Clerk, they're experienced enough, they've been through this enough to know that they're on, you know, if they get one more yellow card, they're going to miss the semi-final. You know, they would have gone out there and they would have been cautious of that. You know, Clerky, with all due respect, is, you know, he can be a little bit, you know, aggro on his day with the challenges and whatnot. Ilfield, you know, they would have known. And I think on reflection, if this was me coaching, I'd say, you know, you guys play, but, you know, just watch yourselves. You know, don't get yellow cards. But I understand where Kahibah's coming from. It's debatable. Nonetheless, so Wallsend, they also had a few outs. Jack Lydiard. I tell you what, I went up to the team sheet. I normally go and grab a photo of the team sheet and then I'll go read it out or whatever. Today at Wallsend, I wasn't reading them out. I was just grabbing the photo and then just using them when I need them or whatever. The team sheet wasn't completely filled out, so I just sort of went up and I had a look. I was going through all the names, and that's so number 50, Jack Lydiard, starting. And I thought, what is that? And I thought that was one of the most surprising inclusions I've seen. And that's not saying he's not a good player, you know. He's been, you know, the 19s, I think I've mentioned him a fair bit, but he hasn't struck me as, you know, someone like a Jackson Manning who's just been, you know, by far a huge standout, you know. But he's got the job done. He's probably trained well, and he's probably been committed and whatnot. And I tell you what, any doubts, and I admit it, I had doubts. Any doubt about Jack Lydiard earning a starting spot today went out the window. We'll talk about that soon. For Kahibah, Bailey Chaplin was given his debut, which I was very happy to see. I was very excited to see what he could produce. Probably not his best game, but I tell you what, Bailey Chaplin was put in the deep end here, thrown in the deep end, thrown into midfield. He was marking David Hodgson. Dave Hodgson, that's who he was marking. A teenager making their debut in first grade against Dave Hodgson. That is just, you know, you can't write that. That's something. And, you know, I think it was probably 4 minutes into the game and Hodjo got the ball and, you know, he went to go this way and he went this way instead, and Bailey Chaplin just nearly got split in half trying to turn this way and then turn that way. He was just totally bamboozled a couple times, but he worked his way into it and he did well today for what it was worth, you know. He played the whole game, didn't get subbed off, and, you know, he just gave his effort for Kahibah, and it was great to see him get that first grade debut. And I said that in the first game of pre-season. I'm like, this guy will play first grade this year, and he has. So I'm happy for him. Kahibah, this is where we're going to get a little bit ugly. Kahibah, I'm not going to mix up my words here. I don't think they took today too serious, and I can understand that. It wasn't exactly playing for sheep stations. The final's already decided, but I think to get sort of confidence going into the finals and that, first of all, they're not taking this game serious by not having Clerk and Ilfield on the field. In my mind, that's a decision that's saying, you know, don't worry about this game, we need these guys for semis, which is fair enough. But I tell you what, one team today looked like they wanted to be there in the opening half for the majority. There were periods where Kahibah did play well, but even in the warm-up, you know, Wallsend were out there, and Kahibah, I don't think Kahibah came out of the change rooms for the warm-up until 10 minutes after Wallsend. They didn't come back into the change rooms until 2:25, which, as you know, the game kicks off at 2:30. Wallsend were out on the field at 2:26. The referees were out waiting at 2:29, and I don't think Kahibah came out until 2:33 or something like that. Which I know I'm talking out of my arse saying that, but what I mean by that is Kahibah they did not look like a team that were, in the zone. And I even watched as the referees did all the handshakes, the coin toss, they checked the nets or whatever. Wallsend were all in formation, Kahibah was standing around, and they weren't in a huddle, they were in a broken off circle, all casually just standing around. I just don't think Kahibah, the body language was wrong. And I've seen this happen at Cooks Hill once earlier this year, on a day where I said, these guys are going to lose today because of that body language. And I said the same about Kahibah, and you're about to find out what happened. Wallsend had some players playing out of position. David Hodgson was at the front of defence, sort of in a holding mid-role. Chris Gazzard playing at full-back. Trent Richards at full-back. Teaga Marcus was the striker on the day. But Gazzard and Hodgson just plugging the holes, they told me. That's what Gazzard said. They had some players out, so that's what has to happen. The first goal, Wallsend had the more chances. Throughout the first half, Kahibah were just looking casual at times. And I'm even going to say Andre Gumprech, I thought, had a fairly poor game by his standards today. Nearly caught out once or twice by Teaga Marcus. Gumpsy does this thing where he just tries to run it out of defence, and that doesn't work when you've got pacey players like Teaga Marcus tracking you down. Kick it upfield. But I can't tell Andre Gumprech how to play, but I think he'd agree that by his standards, his lofty standards, it wasn't one of his best games today. He had Nathan McCarter next to him, a young centre back, and he had a horror moment. Not going to lie, I don't think I can lie about it. He fluffed a clearance and pretty much gave the ball straight to Teaga Marcus, who had put Wallsend ahead 1-0. You could put McCarter down as an assist for that one. 32nd minute, 1-0. Take note of these times. Teaga Marcus straight away, he was back up there and almost made it 2-0. Kahibah were at 6s and 7s, honestly. And then in the 37th minute, Jack Lydiard, on debut, of all people, he twisted and turned his way past a defender or two and finished a brilliant goal. And I was actually sitting behind his dad, who's the assistant coach of the 19s. So that he was very, very happy to see that, and it was good to see. It was good to see a nice moment for the Lydiard family today. The red-headed winger picking up his maiden goal on debut. And then one of the worst 10-minute periods I've seen by Kahibah was capped off right on half-time by Teaga Marcus, 3-0. At this point, at half-time, I said to a few people, Kahibah are going to come back out here and they will lose 5 or 6-0. If they play like that, they will lose 6-0. That's what I said. And to their credit, they come out better in the second half. But that was an absolute shambles of a period for Kahibah in that last 10 minutes of the first half. They just didn't look like they wanted to be there during that 10 minutes. And I couldn't blame them, 3-0 down. Brendan Hayes was subbed on for Andre Gumprech. So another young player at this stage. I'm not sure how old they are. I'd say they're both 18, 19 or so. 2 18 or 19-year-olds at centre-back in first grade. Absolutely crazy. Kahibah, they'd turn it around. To their credit, give them credit for that. They didn't exactly make a game of it though, but they turned it around. Forced Luke Jennings into a decent save, but 64th minute, Jack Lydiard again. Two goals, 4-0 to Wallsend. They were in full control, but Kahibah they had a decent period towards the end where Wallsend sort of just dropped off the intensity. Jaden Demir grabbed the late consolation goal, decent finish, but means little on the day. The worst performance I've seen by Kahibah this season, by far. It didn't look like Kahibah. And as I said, I spoke to them after the game and they didn't seem too concerned, and I don't think they should be too concerned with this, but I tell you, they can't be complacent, and they can't. I get it, there wasn't too much on the line today, I understand that. That's the mentality they've gone with. I'm not going to say they tanked. It was probably as close to tanking as you'll see, but they didn't tank, they didn't lose on purpose, but they fielded a weaker squad. They fielded a squad that wasn't really too up to it or whatever, They just weren't up to it today. Simple as that. But I tell you right now, for what it's worth, if Kahibah show up like that against Bell Swans in the semi-final, it'll be game over in the first leg, in the first half of the first leg. They definitely need improvement, and they'll be wanting that next week against Toronto on Old Boys Day. They cannot afford to lose to Toronto next week on Old Boys Day. It's as simple as that. For momentum's sake, we'll talk about the Toronto result. Kahibah should be winning that by 3 or 4 next week, maybe even more. Wallsend weren't at their best. I haven't seen them at their best this year. I still think there's improvement. There's players to come into that squad that were out. I believe they'll be resting a few next week for finals. So you probably see a few 23s get called up, or even a couple of the 19s, or even potentially Jackson Manning in his last game before he heads off overseas for a tournament from the 17s team. But today belonged to Wallsend FC, and today belonged to Jack Lydiard. Players player, that's what I overheard. I think he got voted players player. I definitely would vote him that. 2 goals, and in my opinion, the best debut by a player this season in first grade. And as I said during the pre-game, when I saw that team sheet, I thought, what is Jack Lydiard doing starting first grade? I hadn't really seen him play too much 23, so it was a huge leap to make. But geez, he made up for it, didn't he? A brilliant game for him today. Alright, my eyes are actually stinging, so I'm going to try and hurry this up a little bit. Around the grounds now in the under-17s, South Cardiff 1 were defeated by Belmont Swansea 3. I should have the goal scorers here. Bonnie Horror Jose for South Cardiff, and for Bell Swans, Jacob Windsor got 2 and someone else got 1. Who was it? I'm a perfectionist, so I'm going to check who it was. I'm going to check my team sheet and hope that the name rings a bell. It was Ross Valeri, or Valerie. Valeri? I'm not sure. I might be pronouncing that one wrong. That's who scored. And we'll just scroll down to what I wrote here. And, a result that doesn't mean too much at the end of the year. Bell Swans will finish above Southie, but a decent win for them. And they've still got potential to jump Toronto into 6th place. Southie, as I said last week, it's just not their year, and a young team that will improve next year, whether it be in this comp or in the NPL 1 or whatever. Out at Cessnock, the Hornets 0 were defeated by West Wallsend 2. Not the best result for Cessnock, but they've been flogged a few times this year, but Westie are class. They're all class in this grade. Josh Knight grabbed a double to move 1 behind Curtis McRitchie in the race for the Golden Boot. But I'm one of those people who think the Golden Boot is a regular season, so Curtis McRitchie has won it because Westie don't play next week. But in the finals, Knighty might finish above McRitchie, who knows. But what a year it's been for Josh Knight, and behaviour's improved and the goals have come, and I said that's what was going to happen, and that's what's happened. A big win for Westie, and it's over the Lakes now to win the premiership next week. If they lose to South Cardiff, West Wallsend are the premiers, so I'm pretty sure you'll see the entire West Wallsend team at Macquarie Field next week for that game. Toronto 1 defeated the Singleton Strikers 0. And again, I wrote some updates that for some reason they're not coming up here. Apologies for that. I'm just going to refresh. I definitely had more written than that. There it is. Beautiful. So Toronto 1 were defeated by Singleton. Defeated. They weren't defeated, they defeated Singleton 1-0. We've just hit the hour mark. It's 10 past midnight. It's getting late, but we're going to get through this. Frustration for Singleton. And again, it's not there what I had written. What I had written was Luke Fishpool hit the post and James Croucher hit the post for Singleton. And then late on, Callum Ansell grabbed the winning goal for Toronto in the final minutes of the game. Frustration for Singleton, but a good win for Toronto on Old Boys Day. Let's move on to the 19s, where South Cardiff 1 were defeated by Belmont Swansea 3. The Dundas and Nicholson show, once again, combining for all 3 goals. Will Dundas with 2, he moves to 20 goals for the season, whilst Nicholson gets to 31, all of them coming in this grade. Southie grabbed a goal for Golden Boot winner James Wooten. No one's going to... I think Ben McCabe's second, and he'd need to score 6 goals next week, and he broke his wrist today. More on that soon. James Wooten is the Golden Boot winner at Southie. He's not going to get overtaken now. He did get a goal today, and they didn't lay down Southie. Their finals hopes were on the line. As a result, they're now out of it. They would have been out of it anyway, I think, because West Wallsend won. But Southie in the 19s just a bridge too far, but a quality team. I would have been happy to see them in the finals, so I'm a little bit disappointed. But Westie obviously deserved to get there. Decent side. Defence was strong for Bell Swans, and a player who has been consistent as of late and who played well during that midweek game was Sam Glover. Glover. And I don't think he was a defender at the start of the year, so I'm not sure on that one, but he's been good lately. A key player for Bell Swans in that grade. They seal the top 2 spot as a result. In the 19s at Cessnock City 2 defeated by West Wallsend 3. Cessnock scored with Reece Paparocki continuing his good form, and Jeremy Noon scoring a quality individually worked goal. But Westie would come away with a win. 2 penalties to James Barnes converted, and Sam Jones scoring with a very late winner. And I'm not going to get into it because honest, I don't want any more controversy. I'm done with it. There were some incidents at at Cessnock after this game, and again after first grade. Both clubs were involved. Players were involved. Water bottles were, poured at people. But allegedly beers were thrown. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't really, I'm not picking a side, but I'm going to say there were some incidents there, and what I'm going to say is that I don't want to hear that. I don't want to see that in any game. I don't care who was at fault. There is obviously a rivalry between Cessnock and Westie. It's become evident. I saw that in pre-season. I saw that when I watched them play early this year. And it's all good to have banter and a bit of push and shove and whatnot, but when there's crap like this happening, and I have seen a video of a player, pouring some water at a fan or something. I don't know, that fan might have said something. I don't know. Again, I'm not taking any sides in this, but what I'm going to say is that honestly, some people really need to grow up. you know, and yeah, I'm not defending the player, but I don't like it when players and spectators clash. There's a role for a player, there's a role for a spectator. And as I said, the banter's all good, but you know, you don't want it getting ugly. And anyone there, like you know, if there's anyone there from, say, Western Workers or somewhere like that, where they might not have played today, so someone from the NPL, you know, or someone who doesn't watch much New FM football or soccer, if you will, you know, they wouldn't. They would have thought, what is this? You know, it's not a good look. That's what I'm trying to say. So, hopefully next time cooler heads prevail. There was no punch-ons or anything like that, but I think it's storm in a teacup is probably the right way to describe it. But seriously, some people do need to grow up. I'll be definitely putting Cessnock versus Westie down on my itineraries for next year. There's a rivalry there, and I'm happy to see that. But again, you don't want to see it go too far. We'll move on to where Toronto Wobble 1 were defeated by Singleton 3 in the under-19s. Toronto moving closer to the wooden spoon. Gordon Ballin picked up a goal. A player who I really like. I think he's decent. He's probably not the most technical player on the team. He just does a job. You know, shuts up and does a job. And that's really what you want to see. For Singleton, Oliver Moody scored 2 goals and Nathan Smart grabbed 1 as well. A good game for Oliver Moody today. Jeremy Wild also making 1 or 2 decent saves. A big win for Singleton in the 19s and a side to watch for next season. In the under-23s, South Cardiff 2 defeated Belmont Swansea 0. Huge win for South Cardiff. Match of the round potentially, or you know, Kahibah and Wallsend obviously, but Trent Lambourne grabbed a double to help put Southie 1 foot Southie need to down Lakes next week. If they want to make the finals, they have to beat Lake Macquarie City, and they're going to have to do it without a standout player this year, Ben McCabe. He broke his wrist early on, which is a shame to see, and well wishes to Ben during that recovery. Fortunately, a broken wrist isn't, you know, it's not exactly an ACL or anything like that. Again, it is a major injury, but what is that, 6 to 8 weeks or something? I've never broken a bone, so I wouldn't know, but I've seen a lot of players with broken arms who come back after 6 or 7 weeks normally. So Ben McCabe, his season's over, unfortunately. Cessnock 2 drawing. Oh, first of all, yeah, Southie, they need to beat Lakes next week, and even if they don't and Kahibah lose, Kahibah won't lose to Toronto though. I think Southie, I was talking to one of their players online, I said what they have to do is simply go in and win that game. They can't afford to think, you know, maybe Kahibah won't win. Doing it without Ben McCabe against Lakes at Macquarie Field. Lakes coming off not the best form after that draw with Cessnock in their last game. They're going to be fired up, and Southie, they're going to need it all. Big games next week in the 23s. I can't wait. I'll be keeping my eyes on those live scores. Cessnock City 2 drawing West Wallsend 2. Pretty much sums up Cessnock's year really, drawing with a team that copped 8 goals the other night. Westie, an improved performance. Jake Sills with 2 goals. And good to see 17s players like Brock Taylor and Nick Bull make an appearance. I believe Nighty also played this grade. But again, the 17s coach probably would have ripped his hair out if any of those players got injured. Especially Brock Taylor, you know, he's captain. But at the end of the day, you give them the chance. But some people would say good for them to get the chance, and then some other coaches would say, you know, I'm not going to put my players into that team when that team's not in for finals. He probably gave his permission, but again, I'd sort of think, you know, what happens if they get injured? They could get injured getting out of bed tomorrow. You know, they get out of bed and break their ankles. So, touch wood, that doesn't happen. but you know what I mean. They can get injured training or whatever. So it's debatable. Again, that's what we're all about here at Newysports TV. Cessnock scorers in the night were 19s players. Oh, what am I trying to say? Luke Ford scored a goal, normally a 19s player. And the other goal came from Brody Egan, also known as Wee Man, grabbing his second goal of the season. Good to see. I'm a big fan of Brody. Wee Man, that's what he goes by up there. Everyone probably knows. Everyone in the comp would probably know him. A great player for his size, and good to see him go a goal, and just a really good character. Really sort of a character that I think you need at every club, and there are some really good characters at Cessnock. They've got a decent culture there. As I said, it does get a little bit heated at times. There are some people there that do get a little bit, passionate. That happens at every club though, but Cessnock, the banter and stuff there, it's brilliant. There's always a lot of fun up there. And Wee Man's he's always on it. He's always on that fun. He had fun today scoring a goal. Definitely a good day for him. Not a good day for Cessnock though. 2-2, the full-time score there. Toronto Wobber 1, defeated by the Singleton Strikers 2. Blake Carpenter scoring for Toronto, and 2 goals for Singleton by club captain Jackson Cox. I thought this was a typo when I got sent the message, Jackson Cox scoring for the 23s. I asked what happened there, and I got given the answer that he went to Splendour in the grass last week, as did a lot of players, to be fair, and I'm pretty sure he would have let the club know about it weeks in advance. But they won last week in first grade without him, so they've stuck to their guns, and they've made him play reserve grade and come off the bench. And I respect that, and I don't know how Jackson would feel about that. I'm pretty sure he'd be alright, club captain. I'm pretty sure he'd be willing to do that for the club. That it happens, and he got 2 goals in the 23s and won them the game. Their finals hopes are over though, due to the fact that Southie won today. In first grade, we're finally here, we're nearly done. South Cardiff 1, defeating Belmont Swansea United 0. Bell Swans missed a vital chance to seal second place. Kahibah lost today. That could have been it. Bell Swans could have had second. They could have had that second semi-final at home. They didn't. They played midweek, which can be used as an excuse, but I don't think they would. I think they're better than that. They had 4 or 5 days between games. 4 days between games. A very committed Southie side, and I tell you what, brilliant to see Southie grab that win in their final home game. And the goal scorer, Josh Casey, someone yesterday was talking to me about best player at each club, and they said, who would you say at Southie? I'm obviously a Winston Oku fan. They said, I know you like Winston. I said, Josh Casey is one. That's who I said. That's a player who I think has really done well the last couple of times I've watched him, and it was good to see him get the winner today. Cessnock City 2, defeated by West Wallsend 3. Cessnock Old Boys Day didn't go their way, unfortunately. Jeremy Morton scored a goal, and Kyle Clark got a goal from the penalty spot. But the day belonged to Westy, and the day belonged to Nick Evans, the youngster from West Wallsend, getting a hat-trick, which that again is that B word. That is brilliant. Good for Nick Evans, good for Westy to win their final game of the season, and I'll say that now, a big thank you to Gary Rowe and West Wallsend for the support they've given me this year, and I've really enjoyed. You only need to look at how many times I've come out there to show you how much I've enjoyed it. Players like the Big Dog and even the assistant coaches there, and Gary Rowe himself, they're all very, very talkative people, and a very good club, and I've enjoyed my time around Westy this year, and I look forward to seeing them back next year. that is their final game of the season. They've got the bye next week. Their 17s and 19s will go to the finals, but their top 2 grades are done for the year. Toronto Awaba 0. This is, we're an hour and 15 minutes in. This is where it gets ugly. Slightly ugly. Toronto Awaba 0 defeated by the Singleton Strikers 6. Now look, I've thought about how to word this because I don't want to say too much here, because Toronto, I think, are in a rebuilding phase and they've got a lot to look forward to next year. But losing 6-0 on Old Boys Day in front of a big crowd, that is just not good enough. It's an embarrassment. I'm not going to say it's disgraceful. I think that's too far. There's some young players in this Toronto team, and I don't want to put crap on them, okay? But I do want to say that it wasn't good enough today to lose 6-0 on Old Boys Day. I think they've got a lot to look forward to, as I said. Tony Jasewski missed the game. I believe his mother was ill, so definitely some well wishes there to the Jasewski family. But on the topic of Tony, he's obviously on his way out as coach. I think you'd know that. They've got to look at options for next year. They've got to be really careful with those options. I have heard a name rumoured. I'm not going to mention that name. A coach for next year. And yeah, they really need a coach who can just, Tony, with all due respect, I think he works in the mines or something. He wasn't always at training and stuff like that, and you really need that. I think they really need a hands-on sort of coach. And look, they need to be careful with who they pick and whatnot, because it is crucial next year with some of the players they want to bring in. But you look, they got bamboozled today. Kieran Burrell single-handedly just tore Toronto to shreds. The pacey winger for the skillful winger for Singleton got a hat-trick today, all in the first half, and the Stags were looking more like deers in the headlights. The second stanza brought much of the same. Rob Field with 2 goals and a goal to Nathan Hall, the youngster. Not good to say this, but Kieran Burrell was subbed off because Toronto were starting to target him. That's what I've been told. And that's a little bit much. I don't like seeing that. Fair enough though, but I don't like seeing that. I think that's not very good. So yeah, Burrell goes off there. And Toronto, it wasn't that long ago that I was watching them beat Cooks Hill and celebrate 2 wins in a row, but they've now conceded 12 goals in 2 games, and it's a horrible end to the season. It's been a pretty poor season. It doesn't get any easier. They got Kahibah next week at Kahibah on Old Boys Day, in front of what will be the biggest crowd at Kahibah Oval in the history of their time in this competition. I know it's only been 2 years, but they've got Old Boys Day next week, they've got Pink Day, they've got Ladies Day, they've got this, they've got that. It's all on next week, and it would not surprise me to see 400 or 500 people at Kahibah next week. It will be a massive day, covered on Newysports. Singleton pick up what I'd say is their biggest win of the season, 6-0. Yes, they won 7 or 9. It was one of the 2 against Merryweather in the FFA Cup. They now head into their final game against Cooks Hill with a lot of confidence. So that's that. That is Newysports TV episode number 27. Maybe another live stream coming to you on Wednesday night or so. It's 12:28. It is Monday morning. I'm supposed to start TAFE at 10. Might take a day off. I don't know. It has been a very late night, but we've gotten through it, and that's all we need to get through. Jets on Wednesday night actually, so there'll be no live stream. FFA Cup is what that is. My throat is really starting to hurt. Next Saturday I'll be going to Singleton for the Singleton Strikers' final game of the season against Cooks Hill United, And then on Sunday, the big one, Kahibah and Toronto. Kahibah Old Boys Day. Get to it if you got nothing else on. Big day there at Kahibah Oval. And that is that for episode 27 of Newysports TV. I'm Ty Stedman, and I will see you next week. Thank you very much.